Hello, and welcome to this brief podcast recording. My name is Sharon. I'm with Flat World Knowledge, and I'm here today with Charles Stangor, author of a new textbook with Flat World Knowledge titled Principles of Social Psychology. Hi, Dr. Stangor.
Hi, Sharon.
So I want to get started so our listeners can learn a little bit more about your textbook today. Let's start with the first question, which is what made you decide to write a textbook for the social psychology course?
Well, I've taught this course for many years to many students, and I thought that over those years maybe I learned a little something about how to organize the course and how to present the material in a way that kept it exciting but also kept it rigorous. As every social psychologist knows, and everyone who teaches social psychology knows, the textbooks are filled with a lot of phenomena, many different research findings, and many different types of events and hypotheses, and it's difficult for the students to it's relatively easier for the instructor to understand those different events and phenomena and to prioritize them into which ones are most and which ones are least important. But it's difficult for the students. So over the years, I got a better idea of how to organize the material, and I thought that helped me in my teaching, and I thought it might be a good foundation for a textbook. Another problem is that the students often feel that the material in a social psychology textbook is very intuitive, that they really don't need to study it very much because, after all, social psychology is about everyday life, and we all experience everyday life, and so we should be able to figure this out on our own, that it's common sense, really. And social psychologists know that that's a big problem because sometimes social psychology is common sense and sometimes it isn't, and it's difficult to know ahead of time which it's going to be. So I felt that I had learned some things, and I was getting an idea about how to organize the course that kind of maintained this balance between the excitement of the course, the interest in everyday life, and the scientific rigor that really characterizes social psychology, the study of it empirically. And so I thought that would be a good foundation for me to begin to write a textbook.
No, that's great, and it sounds like you're giving us a little foreshadowing to the next question, which is, how does this book help solve a problem that the kind of instructors face in teaching this course, or what unique properties does this book have that may be different than other social psychology textbooks in the market today?
Yeah, I think that's what pretty much every instructor says first off, is that the books are so big, they're so long, there's so much material. How do you really organize it, and how do you get the students to focus on the principles rather than on the things that are more peripheral? And so my goal was to write a book about the principles of social psychology. I wanted to help the students understand what are the critical things, the critical theories, the critical research findings, the critical empirical approaches that are basic and fundamental, and to help differentiate that from the other things, the many other things that are more peripheral. So I focused on three different fundamental principles. One is the person-by-situation interaction. I think that's true in every textbook. That's a fundamental part of social psychology, that our behavior is influenced by our personal characteristics, but also by the social situation that we find ourselves in. So in a lot of ways, that approach is typical in most textbooks. But I also have a principle that flows through all the chapters, which is about what I call the ABCs of social psychology, and that is affect, behavior, and cognition. And virtually every topic that we discuss as social psychologists has affective or emotional components. It has cognitive, thoughtful components. And in the end, what we're really interested in large part, is behavior. So each of my chapters has a section or a heading or some kind of structure that talks about the emotional components of, say, altruism or aggression, the cognitive components of the concept, the topic of the chapter, the content topic of the chapter, all with a focus on understanding the behavior. And this ABCs, to me, it's fundamental to social psychology, but it's broader than that. Because no matter what field of social psychology you're in, you'll find that psychology is always framed around those three topics. So using the ABCs helps me organize a lot of the different findings. And then the final, so I have three fundamental principles that go through the book: person by situation, affect, behavior, and cognition. And then the third is maybe more unique to me, but I found it really very helpful in my teaching, and it's about self-concern and other concern. And self-concern is about maintaining the self, self-esteem, and maintaining the value of the in-group, people that we care a lot about. And other concern is reaching out to other people that we don't know very well, but people that we might want to get to know. We know in social psychology that there's a fundamental motive of belongingness, of being part of the social contract. And so this distinction between self and other, although it's not that self and other are always completely independent, but it provides a framework that allows me to talk about a lot of different content areas. So, for instance, when we talk about close relationships with other people, successful close relationships are about meeting the goal of self-concern. You want to get something out of the relationship, but it's also about connecting with the other person. Altruism is in part about self. We feel good when we help, but it's also in part designed. Pure altruism is about helping other people. Aggression is often talked about in large part, and I focus it this way in terms of self-concern. We attack and we're aggressive when our self feels threatened. You can also use this self versus other to talk about cultural differences. Individualism is more about self. Collectivism is more about other. About gender differences, women by and large are more focused than men on other concern. And these distinctions aren't perfect, but they cut through a lot of different content areas, and I found it very useful. So although the self-concern versus other concern is not as prevalent in the text, it helps me find a way to organize a lot of different topics. So that was my fundamental goal that I think made this book a little bit different. I really tried to. It's, I think, a little bit shorter. It's a little bit more focused, and the goal is to keep the students engaged through these three general principles.
Very good. Very good. So for our last question today, could you tell our listeners what made you decide to author this textbook and publish it with Flat World Knowledge? I know you have books with Stangor, and you do have a principles book with us, but what made you decide to stay with us and write this book with us? Because as I've said in the past, you could have published this with any number of the big publishers.
Right. Well, Flat World is really just a great company. I did an intro psychology book with Flat World. It's done well, and I've had just a really great experience. The company's been very supportive. They've helped me in every way. The reviewing process has been very thorough, very excellent, and yet very streamlined in a lot of ways. It didn't get bogged down in a lot of heavy editorial comments, which other publishing companies sometimes do. So I'm very excited about the business model, and of course everybody's excited about the new price structure for students, because we all know that textbooks are terribly overpriced. And this is one of the many ways, and perhaps the best way, to get around that. It's a great product at a great price, and I think the students are very excited about it. Another thing about Flat World that really I appreciate a lot is that in comparison to other textbook publishers that I've had experiences with, Flat World treats authors really, really well. They treat the authors very fairly and with a lot of respect, and I really appreciate that. I feel like I'm part of the Flat World company, and I enjoy being part of it, and I'm really looking forward to staying with them going forward.
Well, that's fantastic, and we're very proud of the authors that we have here, and it's you guys that have kind of made this company and allowed us to kick it off. So we want to treat you with with all the respect that you deserve, given how just central you are to our message and the great textbooks that you're able to provide students. And then we'll handle hopefully providing them at a price that will allow as many people who want to have access to great textbooks the ability to do so. So thank you, obviously.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, and it's great to talk. Excuse me, it's great to talk with you today, and I want to thank everybody out there who's taken the time out of their day to listen to a little bit of information here about Charles Stangor's new Principles of Social Psychology textbook. Feel free to peruse our website, go to our catalog, and request a desk copy or view it online as soon as it publishes in November of 2011. Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you to all our listeners, and we'll hope to work with you soon.
Okay, thanks, Sharon.